So I'm starting recording right now. So the recording will be on the website as well as my YouTube channel. Again, if you want, you can hashtag any of the slides, anything I'm doing here, hashtag new teacher bootcamp. I'm planning based on how all the 4 weeks go. The survey I put out, I'm planning on maybe doing this with Dr. Sams. She suggested it, doing it semesterly, so that is, the information is provided to new teachers once they finish their schooling after each semester. So depending on how it goes, we will probably do something like that. Okay, disclaimer again, this is bootcamp is not affiliated with any organization, school, or company. It's a free event, and all presenters are volunteers. These are hosts. Today we have two hosts. Guys met Dr. Sam last week. No, sorry, week 2. Oh yeah, this is week 3. Sorry, I need more coffee. This is week 3. And we have Dr. Sam, that she's a new teacher and coach. We have Jenna that came in. She does SEL relationship building. I actually put week 4. Yes, so I made a mistake there. Sorry. And the other for some reason it's taking a while to upload is the one she did week 1 self-care, and then Shanae, she's going to be talking about ICT settings week 4. So yeah, this is actually week 3. Yeah, week 4. Sorry. So the schedule today, hopefully we can go as planned. Doing our check-in, we're going to go over the first 6 weeks in the classroom, the routines and things you should do within the first few weeks to prepare your class for the whole school year, right? The expectations of students, the staff, and all that stuff. We're going to go to the classroom. Why are you guys not seeing my schedule? Sorry. I'm using 2 screens right now, so it's a little delayed. Okay, so then we're going to go over classroom management. Breaking down classroom management, we're going to go over differentiation and culturally responsive teaching, how to keep engaged with Dr. Sams, and using STL to build relationships with Jenna, and then we are going to wrap it up. Based on the time, again, I have a lot of resources when it comes to data collection. I know a lot of people asking about that. Also, lesson plans, and what was the other one? Oh, how to differentiate. I have some examples of those too. So we'll go over again. If you have any other questions, something that we did not cover today, feel free to, to ask. All right, so the first few weeks of school, do we have anybody new here? I think these are the regulars. So I don't think anybody really has to, I guess everybody can just introduce yourselves, just say your name, and if you want to share anything, maybe from the week, you can share that. So you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
I'm Alexis, and I am
Nobody?
I'm a second-year teacher, and I work with District 75. I'm a second-year teacher, and I work with District 75.
Okay, welcome. Hi. Anybody else want to share?
I'm Steven. I'm going into my 4th year in D75 as well. Steven, going into my 4th year in D75 as well.
Hey, Mr. Julian. Jenny, anybody else want to share before we move on?
Yeah, it's in New York City. I actually work in Brooklyn. I live on Staten Island, but I work in Brooklyn. I live on Staten Island, and I work in Brooklyn.
My name is Jenny Kelly, and I am in Murray.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little glitchy.
And I am going to be a first-year teacher, and I have students starting on Wednesday. Sorry, I don't have a camera today.
Teacher, and I have students starting on Wednesday. Sorry, I don't have a camera today. It's okay. Anybody else want to share? You guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, this is bad. Yeah. Sorry, guys, this is not good. The internet seems to be a little glitchy here.
You sound better now than before.
All right, so let's go into. Let's go into the first 4 weeks. Okay, there's going to be goals for the first 6 weeks of school. There are goals that you want to address in the classroom, right? The first things first, before you try to teach any academics, before you try to give any homework, right? There's a lot of things you're going to want to put in place first. So you want to create a climate of warmth, inclusion, and safety. And the way you're going to do that is if you build relationships, right? We have to build relationships with our students, get to know them, get to know the families. So creating that environment of warmth, inclusion, and safety. All students should feel that they're part of the community. They should feel safe and welcomed. You want to set classroom routines and behavior expectations, because you're not going to be able to teach or move forward with anything if you don't have those things in place. So you want to figure out what routine works best, and trying to set your own routine without your students might be a bad idea, right? It's important that you involve the students and the other staff of the classroom in this planning. That way everyone's held accountable, everyone feels, they have a role in the routines and the behaviors you're expecting. You want to help students get to know and care for the classroom and school environment. This is their space as much as it's your space. You want them to have responsibilities, set jobs, which is really good in the classroom, right? You have someone that waters the plants, someone that hands out supplies. I mean, that might look a little different now because of COVID, but there's many responsibilities you can give students in the classroom. So we should make sure that we are letting them know this is your second home, right? Yes, exactly. Everyone should have a voice in the classroom. This is their second home. This is your second home. You want them to take care of it just as much as you are going to take care of it. Also, establish expectations for academic work. Again, like I said, these are the first 6 weeks. There's a book that Shanae had recommended last week. I believe it's called The First 6 Weeks of School. It's from Responsive Teaching, I believe. And it does really, it sets up just the routines and the foundations of the school year. You want to make sure that it's set in the beginning, because you're gonna have to constantly repeat these things, right? Repetition is best with our students, and even for adults. So setting those routines and starting early is going to be very crucial for the way the school year is going to go. Okay. So here we're going to go a little bit into classroom management, right? And we have to be mindful of this, right? It's not going to be, we're not going to succeed on the first time. It's going to be, I mean, maybe we will, and it'll be awesome, but there's going to be a lot of trial and error, especially if you've never been in the classroom, right? If you've been in the classroom, you have some ideas of what you can do, what works, what doesn't work. But then again, no two students are the same. You have to remember that you might have had a plan last year that worked. It might be tweaked. It might need to be tweaked for the next year for the students you have, right? We can't keep teaching, treating our students the same. We have to just try it out. And if it doesn't work, we tweak it as we go, right? We have to be open to that. So classroom management is not about having the right rules, it's about having the right relationships. So again, we stressing relationships. Jenna's gonna go into stressing relationships. Even Miss Dr. Sam is gonna go into, everything is about relationships. You cannot teach students if you don't really have a relationship with them. You could try, but they're not going to retain any of that, right? Even relationships with your coworkers, it goes so much smoother when you have these relationships. So that's why those first few weeks, focus on relationships. And then yeah, I just found these things. I found them pretty funny. With screaming at top of my lungs, me using classroom management strategies. So screaming definitely isn't something that's going to work in your benefit. It's going to show your class you don't have control of your class. And then there are some students that would challenge that, even staff that would challenge that. So avoiding screaming, that's important. All right. So classroom management, these are some things that you should be focusing on. Setting the classroom rules and the expectations the first few days. Again, you need to do this with your class. It's not about you by yourself. It's not a one-man show. It's everyone that's involved collectively. Set those rules and expectations. You can have an idea of what you want going in, but it should be a discussion you have with the class as a whole. You know, even writing down the rules, having the students sign it kind of like a contract and leaving it posted on your wall, right? I used to do that. We all come up with the rules, make them very simple, very short, easy to understand, maybe top 3, top 4. I would say max 5. You don't want to have too many rules because then it just, you know, it's going to be hard. So you want to focus on the most important things. Clear verbiage for students to understand it, go over each rule, have examples of what it means to follow the rules, what it means not to follow the rules, and then have the students sign it in the bottom. It shows that they're being held accountable. They are aware of the rules, and you're going to be expected to follow those rules or expectations. You might not want to say rules. Rules kind of sounds a little bit, you know, some people might not like that word. It might be a trigger word, you know, maybe expectation, classroom expectations instead of classroom rules. Right? Yes. Okay, I was just reading the chat room, trying to stay. Okay, get to know each student, build a rapport, right? That's what Jenna's gonna talk about. I know that Sam's going to touch on it. I'm gonna stress it throughout the whole session. Do student preference surveys, send them home. Actually do it in your first few weeks of school with the students, getting to know the student activities, right? Getting to know them. Have them do a preference sheet, maybe with top questions, maybe a Google Forms, depending on the grade level they're in, a Nearpod. Like there's many ways you can survey your students in a fun way. You want to get to know what they like, what they don't like, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses, what they want to gain out of the classroom, out of the relationship, right? You can learn so much from your students if you do this. Again, it's going to look different depending on the grade level and all that good stuff, but it's possible for all grade levels. You also want to send home surveys for parents. You know, maybe getting to know how the relationship when it comes to academics at home, or what are the goals for their students, you know, for their children. That's going to be an opportunity to open up a line of communication, which is very vital. We need family support and engagement for the student success in any way. So this will be an opportunity to do your welcome letters to the parents, introducing yourself, make it fun. You know, I'll show you what I use for my summer school. It was like a meet the teacher type thing, get a little message about what we're going to be doing over the summer, some personal fun facts about me, just so I'm human to them. You know, you want them to know that you're the teacher, you're there to help them, but you're also human. You know, you have a life outside of this. When they see you more like that, the relationship is more, it's possible to have a relationship with your students and the families. Use a timer, classroom management. That's going to be a great tool for you, using a timer. Buy one at the dollar store, the cooking ones. You can buy one online. They have many different types. You can even use your phone, right? A lot of phones have timers and other devices, but using timers for everything. It's going to be very important when you're doing your lessons. Also, you're going to be, when you get observed, it's all about time. You're making sure you're using your time, you know, using it right. You're making sure you're using 5 minutes for your check-in, your do now, whatever, introducing the material. You want to make sure you have time for everything. And it's going to help set the flow of the class. And there's going to be more time for instructional, your instructional time when you are using, I'm using word time so much, timer. So use a timer for everything, everything. It's going to be your best friend. And don't go on a power trip, please. You are there to lead them. You're not to boss them, right? There's a difference between a leader and a boss. And we know that in all aspects, all relationships is we want to be a leader, right? We want to be a guide for them. We don't want to just sit there with our finger pointing, telling them what to do. You're not going to get a good response, whether it's a student or whether it's a coworker. You need to make sure that you are, you're having a relationship with them and you're leading them, you're guiding them into making, decisions or moving forward. Don't go on a power trip. Do not go on a, yelling and fighting with a student. You're losing. You're showing that you don't have no power if you get to that point, right? And you want students to be on your side. So help them trust you. Again, then when I do my meet the teacher, I say a little bit about myself. I'm human. When I'm doing my lessons, I make a real life connection to maybe something I'm experiencing, right? You want them to, you don't want to give too much on having drama with my boyfriend or my kids are not listening. Not stuff like that, but more like making them realize that you are human just like them and you experience things they've experienced. Does anybody have anything they want to say or ask before I move on? I know it's a lot of information.
I'll just say one thing.
No one?
One thing that I was taught when I was a social worker was
so
that.
we're going to go now into teaching strategies. Let me see once the screen switches over. All right, you guys see the teaching strategies? All right, so we're going to go into teaching strategies. Again, like I said, I'm moving forward. Oh, I can't hear him. I'm sorry. Yeah, Mr. Julian, I'm sorry.
The only thing I was going to say was that we asked the students to share so much with us, and how can they expect to trust us if we don't share something with them? And I was taught that as a social worker, it's you go in and you have to do a demographic form, and it's so much information you're getting from them, but at the same time, what do they know about you? So why should they trust you? Why should they go into a relationship with you? So I take that with me as a teacher as well. I always try to let them see that I'm a human, and I speak to them about video games or anime or whatever it is that they like. I just try to use whatever I have to engage with them.
Right. And that also gives you gives you more, like you said, more of the way to connect with them, right? If you share with them or they share with you, they know like, oh, she likes this, or like, like you say, you watch anime and it's very helpful. You find that you can use as an opportunity to build those personal relationships with the students, right? You might have someone that draws and likes to make origamis and it's something you like, right? You're going to connect with them. I had a student that had the Pandora bracelet with all the charms. I have one too. So I started wearing it to class. It was doing remote, but I was showing him. I'd be like, oh, look, I have a new charm. Just whatever way you can make a connection with them, then make it. Anybody want to share anything before we move on? No? All right. I'm sorry. Before I like I said, I'm using two devices and I had the volume off of the one to hear you guys. All right. So we're going to go into teaching strategies. Okay. There's many different teaching strategies, but again, once you get to know your students, then you're going to have a better idea of which strategies are going to work best for your students. And they're not going to be the same. You might get lucky and you might be able to use the same for a few students, but don't go in expecting that you can use the same strategy for all students, because you're going in failing. You're setting yourself up to fail. You got to accept that no two students learn the same. And if students do not learn, this is my favorite quote. If students do not learn the way we teach, we need to teach the way they learn, right? And that's very important. That's all accepting that you do not, you're a lifelong learner, you're willing to change, and you're there for the student. So you need to figure out how they learn, and you teach. It's not about you, right? Also, students have IEPs. Right? Or if parents, or other teachers have any tips on how to meet the needs of the students, embrace that, take that, okay? Like I always try. I have some students that I get one year and I didn't have the last year. Like I'll speak to those students. For example, I had a student that Mr. Julian had last semester. I had him this semester, this year, summer school. I spoke to him. And I asked him about the student, right? It's okay to ask, because that's going to help me meet the needs of that student, because now I have inside, information, and I'm ahead of the game now, because now I know how to address my student, how to work with my student, how to get them to succeed, right? In whatever they're working on. So it's okay to ask. Other teachers, that's why we do the surveys with the parents. You just want to get to know them. And start the year with fun assessments, right? We need to know where our students are. Data is everything. So you know, if they have an IEP, it's easy to go into their IEP, look at their goals and see what they're working on. That's giving you, that's like a gem right there. The IEP is going to help you if you have students with, you know, with IEPs. If you don't, that's why it's helpful to speak to other teachers, speak to parents, get to know the students, do fun assessments. We have like Kahoot. I use Kahoot, it's really, really fun because you can make your own based on whatever your students are working on. There's also already assessments on there, and it's fun, it's challenging. It's just a great way to assess those skills. You can do fun assessments in the classroom. And then this will also help you, you know, you're taking your mental notes, you're taking your anecdotal, you know, your anecdotals, making sure you are figuring out how your students learn. Again, these are the first few weeks you want to do these things. Reading IEP, if they have one, speak to previous teachers if possible, collect data and use it to steer your lessons. So once you're doing those assessments, your goal is to be collecting data, right? You want to see where your students are. Where are those gaps? Where you need to, you know, work, what you need to work on with them. And the data is going to be the best way. If they have an IEP, like I said, you'll see it, it's there. Yes, I'll share. Geneva, can you please share your YouTube channel link so we can find? Yes, I will share it. If you just search my name, it'll come up.
There it is. It's there.
I'm sorry?
I shared it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Oh, that's mine. Okay. All right. So also teaching strategies would include visuals, videos, sounds, manipulatives, hands-on activities, worksheets, readings. Charades is a fun way to do vocabulary or like character stuff. Technology and differentiation. There's so many ways to meet the needs of your student. There's so many strategies. And remember, don't stick to what, you know, what works best for you. Yeah, we want to stay, you know, we want to be comfortable in what we do and what we bring to the classroom, but we need to be open to learning what the students need, especially with our special needs students, our lower grade levels. They need a lot of stimulation. They need a lot of ways to be engaged. So you got to find out what works for them, right? I use songs and music for every lesson with my students because I know they love music. So I always find a video that's connected or a song that's connected to what I'm teaching them. And I give that to them because I'm giving them another opportunity, an entryway to get to grasp whatever I'm teaching them, the skills, right? So using anchor charts are great. Pinterest is a good place. You can go on Pinterest and find an anchor chart for anything. And you can either use what they have or make your own based on what your students need, but you can get ideas. Videos, sounds, manipulatives, a lot of hands-on. Hands-on is a great way to see if the students grasp the concept. You're trying to teach them or the skill, but if it's remote, obviously, or you can't do hands-on, there are many other ways, right? All right, any questions about teaching strategies before we move on? Maybe Miss Dr. Sam or Jen or anybody has something that has worked for them that they want to share?
I would say this year definitely Kahoot was a lifesaver for me because the students were really just over the entire COVID situation, and that was a fun way to still engage them and assess them at the same time. I was a little weary at first about using it because it was just more screen time for them. Even when they were in the classroom, it was like, oh, now we have to go on the computer again and use this, you know, program. But it was engaging, and I didn't only use it for academic purposes. I used it for like Disney shows, know your characters, like things like that. So they really enjoyed that. And having worked in an ICT classroom, I would say, just like you said, the IEP is a gem. It really is, because prior to the school year starting, my co-teacher would always look over the IEPs and really go through them and highlight them and try to figure out what kind of student, you know, this child was before they even entered the room. And before they even came in, we knew what they liked and we had things ready for them that matched their interests. Right. So that's definitely a go-to, you know, document in terms of special ed.
Right. Right. Thank you for sharing that, Jenna. That's very important. And that also goes back to making sure you speak into your coworker. That's what's important. Relationships are important, right? You build those and it's easier for you to go to them and check. And again, it's all about the students. You're going to better meet the needs of your students when you talk to your coworkers and you really get to know your students. Thank you, sharing, Jenna. Anybody else have anything they want to share about that? Or maybe something that worked for them? Also, Kahoot can be used as an incentive, right? So for example, my Kahoot I used for assessment, but it was like an end of week assessment. So for our students, we worked on the same skill. Each subject had its own skill, and we would just work on it for a week because our kids are really low functioning. We know repetition is very important. So we would work on the same skill for a week. So we were doing ELA, or for example, like hygiene, right? That's life skills. We're teaching them hygiene or community helpers or something like that. We'll focus on it all week. And then the end of Friday, I didn't tell them this is an assessment, guys. What I would say is we have, it's Kahoot Friday, right? And every Friday we played Kahoot. So they look forward to that. We did our basic routine, checking in, whatever. And then the end, we will summarize all the lessons we went over for the week. I would do a little like questioning, answering kind of session with them to get an idea if they really did learn anything from the lessons, having maybe like 2 or 3 essential questions for each lesson that you taught, which I'll go into when it comes to differentiation lesson planning. You want to have that. You want to have a goal is what was your lesson's objective and see if the students got that. And then we would do Kahoot, and I would just do Kahoot based on all the, on all the skills we learned during that week. But it was fun for them. And like Jenna said, we would end with they loved the Disney character ones or the TV show, like Cartoon Network characters, guess the character. They loved it. They knew all of them. I didn't know any of them, but they knew all of them. But that was like a fun way. They were getting assessed on the skills, but they were having fun while doing that. And then they got an extra incentive of playing the Disney game or the Cartoon Network game. So we can make it in a fun way. So students will be like, oh, I'm getting tested or assessed. I don't want to do this, just make it like a Kahoot Friday or something like that. And that's when you do your assessments and you just make sure that the students retained or they learned the skill that you were trying to teach them. All right. So we're gonna go into differentiation. Differentiation looks different for all different levels, all different subjects, right? I put some ways you can differentiate here. I also shared an example of how differentiation might look in a special education or elementary classroom. And then I added some ways with the highlights are ways you can use differentiation. That's examples of differentiation in your classroom, which can be used across the board, all grade levels, all subjects. So for my District 75 kids, we use level 1 would be all pictures. Level 2 will be, well, for me, this is my, like this for this year, actually not this year, the year before, this summer was a little bit lower. So I used a lot of pictures and colors and shapes and thumbs ups and thumbs downs for them to answer their questions. But here is a level 1, all pictures. Level 2, pictures with words. Level 3 will be no or very few pictures will fill in the blanks. Oh, thank you so much, Sam. Yeah, so guys, check out the chat box. They're putting in a lot of information, resources. Take it down, save it, so you can check it out when we're finished. I will also try to add them to the Google Sites. Like I said before, some of you guys came on after, I was putting together a guidebook, but I decided to do a Google Sites. That way I can constantly change it and update it, and it's available for you guys. Because if I do a guidebook, it's a PDF, I can't change it, or I can change it and have to keep sending you over and over. So I'm working on a Google site, and I'll share that link after week 4. All right, so these are different ways you can differentiate. Pictures, videos, music, work for all grade levels. Don't think it's only elementary, trust me. All grade levels, they benefit from music and videos. Partner work. So if you're in a classroom or you're doing Zoom, doing breakout rooms and stuff like that, using word lists is very important. Like we always have our word list, our word wall in the classroom on whatever lesson we're working on, all the vocabularies for that. Anchor charts are your best friend. Anchor charts, you can use anchor charts for everything you're teaching. And anchor charts are fun because you can leave them up on the wall. You can reuse them, right? The goal is to make material you can reuse. So if you look at my closets, I have my first 3 years, I was always making things. Now I don't really need to make or buy anything because I have all this stuff from before. So a lot of these skills you continuously teach, right? Of course, if you're like working with the same grade or the same subjects. So make anchor charts and try to make them to where you can reuse them, right? Maybe on oak tags, maybe get them laminated. You don't want to have to keep remaking things. If you can use it again, use it. So anchor charts are very helpful. Graphic organizers for everything, like they're great, and it's a great tool to assess if students are really getting what you're teaching. It's great for like data collection, all that stuff too. And it's a great way for students to organize their work. Again, graphic organizers are used for everything. Sentence starters are very helpful too for ELA, the lower level students. Providing templates. Workstations in the classroom is very helpful also. Providing resources, additional resources. Task cards are fun. Using all senses is really helpful too. Because not everybody like learns the same also, right? So for like, again, someone might work better with they listening to a song or they hear something, like they see a picture or a story, right, a video. So there's many ways you can help the students grasp this. Group work is very helpful as well, and helps on it helps with many skills, not only academically but socially, right? We want our students to be able to work together and become problem solvers, critical thinkers, and they can do that in their group work. It also helps you better collect data if you have group work, right? And you have differentiated groups based on the students' levels. Formative assessments. Formative and informative you should be using in your lessons. It's also part of when you're getting assessed, you want to make sure you're collecting data. So there's many ways, again, the way you can collect data and then use those assessments or the outcome of the data to steer your lessons. Because that's the goal, right? You want to use the reason why we collect data is to make sure to know how we're going to move next. Where's the lesson going to go? Do I need to repeat this? Do I need to change the way I, addressed it in the classroom because the students didn't get it? So that data is going to be very helpful. Anybody have anything they want to share about this? No? All right. So Dr. Sam puts a great resource for the UDL and differentiated instructions. This is really helpful. So she added that to the chat box. Again, I have a page of resources that's going to share all this stuff with you as well, different ways you could differentiate and examples. I can also send you some of my examples of my samples of work for my students and 3 levels of how I differentiated for them. All right, so we're going to go into culturally responsive teaching. This is something that we all should be addressing in some way or another. Some schools have curriculums that are really focused on it, but there are many ways that you can incorporate it into your teaching. Okay, it's very important. So it's going to be here. This little box on top is some tips of how you can do, the benefits of it, how you can go about it. It helps build relationships. You need to activate students' prior knowledge. It makes learning contextual. We consider the classroom setup of how you set it up and positive perspectives from family and parents. So some examples of culturally responsive teaching, you could use role playing. This one is a big one, assigned for the higher level students, right? Assign assignments relevant to students' cultures and communities. That's a really good way to engage them. And it's also a good way for you to learn about their community and what they're dealing with. Because a lot of times our teachers do not come from the communities where our students live, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because I feel that a teacher that is connected or understands where the students come from can really better connect with them. But it's still possible for you to do that. You can learn, right? You know where you're going to be working at. Take a day out of the summer or 2, go to the community, get familiar with what the community is about, the culture of the community, right? Or do your research, ask people about it, other people that live in the area, other coworkers that might have been working in that school for a long time. You want to connect and really understand. And the best way you can, address culturally responsive teaching is if you do that, you educate yourself. It's our responsibility. These are our students, we're teaching them. We need to get to know them and really where they come from, their background, so that we can be a little bit more understanding and know how to address, certain things, even as being as mindful as saying mom and dad, right, in your lessons. We gotta be very careful with saying that. That's why I say families or caregivers. You gotta be very mindful. We don't know. Our kids grow up in with grandparents or no parents, or they're being raised by a cousin, or they're from the foster care system, right? There are many situations our kids come from, so we need to be mindful of what we say. So don't try to stay away from mom and dad. A lot of them don't have mom and dad. A lot of them, they passed away or they just raised by someone else. So that's something that you need to be aware of, right? Diversify the class library, right? We want to be careful with just be one-sided with the information we are sharing or the books that we are sharing. So we need to diversify the class, the library, and constantly check it. We don't want books that's in there that's broken or old or just really not relevant to our students and what they're going through now. So every year you should check that out, check your library. And talk, teach and talk to students about discussing differences between the individuals, right? That's great. That's part of SDL too, being aware, accepting, all about inclusion and diversity. Celebrate that. Celebrate the differences in the class. Let them know they're different, they're unique, but they are, they're all still part of the same school and community. So they should like embrace one another, and even have lessons on that of different cultures, right? And show how differences among students makes for better learning, right? We can learn from all our students can learn from us, and we could use all that as learning opportunities. Need assessment surveys for parents, right? We want to ask parents, again, this is all about building those relationships and knowing what the parents expect or need from us. Again, here, visit local community events and discuss with students. Let them know that you are invested. You're really trying to get to know them and who they are and where they come from so you can better serve them. So participate in local events, visit local events and discuss it with the students. Do your homework about the students you are serving. Like I said in the beginning, it's your job. Those are your students. You need to get to know them on a personal level. So the best way is learn about their community, learn about their culture, their background, right? And then you have something to connect with and talk to them about. There's some strategies here that I shared. I'll add this to the resource page, and also I'll email it to you guys at the end of the session on culturally responsive teaching, 5 strategies. Again, I watched these videos and I also did my research and I pulled out these examples of how you can do it in the classroom and what are the benefits of culturally responsive teaching. Anybody have anything they want to say or build on before I move on with this? No? See, you guys are frozen on this screen, but I don't see you on the other screen presenting. All right. Yeah, so parents as partners in education, that's absolutely right. They really are. I believe all stakeholders are really, really important. Are really an important part of a student, just achieving. We need everyone involved, but we definitely need the families to be a partner with us. That's it. Opening those lines of communication our first few weeks is very important. A two-way, letting them know. Even if you want to set up a different email or a Google phone number. I know like Shanae has a Google number. A lot of people have a Google number. So if you don't want to give them your personal number, you give them the Google number. All right, so now we're going to go into how to be creative and keep students engaged with Dr. Sam. Are you there, Dr. Sam? I don't hear anybody.
I see you're unmuted, but we don't hear you.
Test. 1, 2, 3.
Good.
Good? All right, cool. Sorry about that. I had the wrong mic selected. Jeez Louise, we are having some problems with some tech today, friends. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Oh, maybe not. I will pop links in the chat. So today we're going to talk about engaging students with learning. And we're going to start with the importance of designing for all in mind, because we want to make sure that we're designing for all the students in our classroom. We're going to talk about accessibility first. I'm going to drop in the chat some links so we can follow along together. Or try to share my note. It says it's disabled. Okay, that's okay. So I'm dropping the first link here, which is a tool called Immersive Reader. And
you can share now. I'm sorry.
Oh, I can? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to share this one. Yay! Hooray! Look at that. I'll still keep dropping links in the chat just because that's fun. All right, so here we go. So this one, I wish I had this tool when I was a new teacher, future teacher, because a lot of the different accommodations I was making to the work is already done for you here in Immersive Reader. So you guys click on the link here. Before you click try it out, I know it's tempting to click that button. Just scroll down a little bit. You're going to see some different features that it offers and the platforms in which it works with. So if you are a Microsoft school, it works within Microsoft Edge, which is not your grandma's Internet Explorer. It's actually a really good accessibility browser. It works within OneNote and Outlook and Word and other Microsoft products. Now we're going to click try it out. You can also watch the video of the cute kids, but we'll do that another time. So within Immersive Reader, now I didn't share my audio with you, but since you all have the link hopefully up, if you click play, it'll read it aloud to you and highlight as it goes. You'll notice the screen goes gray a little bit and it highlights. You also have a couple of voice settings here. You can change the voice selection and the rate at which it reads. Up here on the top right, we have some text preferences. And as a special ed teacher, a lot of the things I was doing was changing up the contrast or the font size for my students who had some visual impairments. So making this a little bit larger, turning on increased line spacing. You'll notice I turned that off for just a moment, but when I click on that button, it's going to increase the spacing between the characters, the words, and the lines of text. So I'll click on that. And I can keep going through here and I'll make that a little bit smaller, and it'll keep reading aloud and highlighting. I can select the different types of font styles. Now the Comic Sans is very similar to the dyslexia font that was created. And then here we have different themes. So for us sepia fans out there, they have that, but they also have dark background with white text and vice versa. For some of our students who have visual impairments, sometimes having a yellow background or like a muted yellow can really help out with that as well. So this, if I had this and I was a special ed teacher and I was doing a lot of these similar accommodations, this would save me so much teacher time. Another magical piece is under the grammar options. You can see I have different parts of speech highlighted in different colors. You can highlight those for our students. We also have syllables. You can break the words down into syllables, increasing that spacing just a little bit, helping some of our students with dyslexia. Reading preferences, it gives us line focus. So if I click on that, I'm able to focus in on 1, 3, or 5 lines of text. Now, as a teacher, I was using those note cards with like highlighter tape on the top, and we would go down line by line by line. This does it for me. You'll see the screen went dark, highlight one piece at a time, and highlights and still speaks in the text aloud for me. Another really cool feature is if you're a special ed teacher, you know all about BoardMaker Speaking Dynamically Pro, and those symbols are teacher best friend, right? Well, BoardMaker and Microsoft combine superpowers, and they now have a picture dictionary enabled. So if I click on a couple of pictures here, let's see if I can get one. They're usually really good with nouns. Turn off my line focus. Turn that off. So here we go. If I click on ages, here's a little picture symbol of that word. Here we have for abilities and the right. So that has a nice picture dictionary to help support our students who need that picture support, kind of like the differentiated pieces Geneva was sharing about earlier. And I'm just gonna pause here. Can I just say Geneva's on vacation and we're doing this. This is amazing. Virtual high five to you, Geneva. That is super great. Okay, so here we are to keep me bopping here over on Translate. Now, friends, I gotta tell you something. Every time I share this with my future teachers, and this is something I usually share at the end of the semester, is a translate feature. Like, why didn't you show us this when I was taking Spanish 101? So here with the translate feature, I'll just do some German, because why not? You can click on the word and it will actually pronounce it here. Now, again, I didn't share my audio, but it pronounced it in German. But I can not only translate the word, but also the whole document. So we'll just give it a little bit of think time, and then I'll click play, and it'll read through in German. Now, this is an awesome tool for back to school night if you have parents who speak a different language, or translating your classroom newsletters or anything like that that you're sending out to parents who might not, or families who might not read English. This is a fantastic resource. It works really well with the tool called Microsoft Translate, which is great if you're having meetings with families who do not speak English. Microsoft Translate, you can speak English into your phone and it will read it aloud in their language. They select on their language. I'm going to share a quick link with you guys. Just let me do a quick search because I forgot I was going to mention that. Microsoft Translate. They have tons of resources here in their app, and it's free because I tell my future teachers we specialize in free. We have money for ice cream and pizza and coffee, so we need to specialize in free. So here with Microsoft for Education, what happens is you can select which language you speak, and the listeners or the attendees or the parents or the families can select which language they speak, and it can do two-way conversation. I very much recommend checking out this video, the lectures and presentations, because it shows all these students are speaking some different language, but the presenter is speaking English, but it translates on their phone, their specific dialect. And then this one shows a video of a parent-teacher conference using Microsoft Translate to help with that. So I'm going to drop that in here. Boom. Okay. Now we're going to keep going. So we need to design with all in mind, using tools for accessibility to help our students get that content, whether it's digital, hybrid, or in our traditional learning spaces. Another great resource, and the reason I like to share Immersive Reader first, is because Immersive Reader now works with a lot of different tools. Oh, hey, thanks, Nearpod. Immersive Reader is now embedded within Nearpod, Flipgrid, Wakelet, lots of tools that we teachers use like on the daily. It's now embedded, so your students can now listen to it, any of the text or anything like that. So if you are a fan of Nearpod, can I get an N for Nearpod in the chat? And let's see if we have some Nearpod fans. Try saying that like 5 times fast. All right, Jenna is a Nearpod fan. So Jenna, I hope you hop on the mic and share some of your brilliance today regarding Nearpod. Okay, maybe Nearpod's new to some of us. So one thing I want to share with you guys regarding Nearpod, you can create a free account. It's freemium, so you can have like a free and a paid. Again, specialize in free. I got the freebies. So you can actually go into their library. If you go into Nearpod library, I'm just going to move this chat box over just a little bit. Make this a little bit bigger for you guys. And I'm going to drop the Nearpod link in our chat. So you guys, if you do not have an account, maybe we'll sign up for one today because it's just so much fun. All right, so here you go. Within the Nearpod library, you can select, like, do you want a lesson? Do you want an activity? What are you looking for today? And it'll customize that. I'm not going to click on any of that right now. You can also sort by standards and grade levels. Check that out. We got some higher ed, all the way from kindergarten to higher ed. So we got you covered in Nearpod. You'll also see their featured resources. So we talked about finding resources for back to school. You might want to check these out. Look, it's K-12, lots of stuff you can do within here. Current events, racial justice, tons of activities that you can implement. You'll also notice that Nearpod is partnered with some content providers like PBS. So they have resources to help support that as well. If you're like, I just want some content stuff, Sam, scroll down just a smidgen more and you will find some videos here that you can rock out with and find, like this Calm one, fantastic for like checking in with yourself and doing some self-care. And you'll see all of their different content partners. I can get lost in here, so I'm just going to scroll up because I'm like, oh, I want to click on this. What's in here? So within Nearpod, I feel like, okay, but Sam, I have like all these PowerPoints that I've used. Why would I want to use Nearpod? Because Nearpod is like the sprinkles on top for PowerPoint. You can just upload your PowerPoints, bada bing, bada boom, or you can upload Google Slides. You can start with an activity. You can also grab a video. So if you have like a YouTube video or a Vimeo, you can pop that right in here, ask questions, have it pause, students have to answer it before they move on. And that's awesome for asynchronous learning. But I'm just going to click on lesson. And we're just do a very quick overview of Nearpod, friends. Nearpod is fantastic. You get lots of resources and tutorials on their site and on their YouTube channel. So we'll just give it a minute to load. So if you already have content that you're rocking and rolling with, you can just upload it, drag it, and drop it right within here. Boom, you have a Nearpod lesson. But remember, we want to add some sprinkles for engagement. So if you click on add content and activities, first, I recommend creating your slides in something other than Nearpod. Nearpod slides, not visually appealing, but like Google Slides, PowerPoint, create in there, throw them into the to Nearpod. But I kind of want to click to see what this thing is, but I'm not going to do it today because I'm with you guys. So you can drop in video. You can have them go to specific websites, which is great, especially if you're having students bebop around the web. So they're going to the right site that you want them to go to instead of like, oh, let's just Google it and see what happens. Oh no, friends, we're going to go right to it in Nearpod. They have fantastic 3D simulations for students to do. So if I click on this, you can insert a 3D image of an animal cell or the human ear or the earth, and they can pinch and zoom in, zoom out, and rotate that to really get that immersive experience. You can take them on virtual field trips, which are amazing, by the way. So Geneva, I think you said you're in Miami. Let's see if we have one, just because we want to join you. Let's see what we can find here. Oh, this looks beachy. I'm going to add that. So you can add in virtual field trips into your lesson. You can have students interact with Sway documents, which are created by Microsoft. They're kind of like if old school Microsoft Publisher, remember that software greeting card thing that we used to have like in the 90s? I know I remember that. It says it's if that tool and a website like had a baby, it would be Microsoft Sway because it's really interactive and fun. So we have some graphing calculators, lots of stuff you can add in. That's the content. The funsies are with the activities. And I'll tell you what, my students, my future teachers, they go crazy for a time to climb with their multiple choice questions as students race up a mountain. You can go in the Himalayas, you can be in the ocean. There's thematic ones for holidays, but it's their time that they have to go up this mountain. You'll also see that Nearpod talks very nicely. It shares with Flipgrid, which is so much fun. So you can incorporate that into your lesson when students do a video response, an audio only response, or sharing their screen. And then there's lots of different ways to interact. I would call this more of a formative assessment piece, not so much a summative. Nothing, you can't use it for summative, but this is great for text for understanding, just to make sure they're tracking with you. And it looks like they have something new, the drag and drop. I'm going to click on that after today's session because I really want to check that out along with the slides. Once you have something rocking and rolling, you can just click save and exit, or you can preview to see what the students would see in your Nearpod lesson. So Nearpod for the win for virtual, hybrid, and traditional learning experiences. So there are some beautiful palm trees for you guys to check out. We're going to get into our next option, which is Google Jamboard. And if you just go to your Google account and type in new or Google Drive, click on new Jamboard, it's going to bring you to any Jamboards that you've created. Now I have a couple of really cool ways that I've used Jamboard with my future teachers. I have had them use it for collaboration opportunities, for positive notes. Here's an example of the positive notes where they can send positive notes to each other just on a little sticky note or on a text box. What I really like about it, and let me see if I can click on it here. There we go. It's thinking. So I have each of my students choose a frame, and you can have up to 20 frames and 50 people on a Jamboard at a time, unless that has been updated. It's quite possible that that has been updated. You can have up to 20 frames, which are these little slides. Because you know every tech tool that we use has to have different words for things, so they call their slides frames. What I really like and what I started using a lot is I'll have my students go into a Jamboard. I'm like, hey guys, pick a frame and pop in. These are some different areas. This is them giving feedback from their digital portfolios to their peers. But what's really interesting, this was during finals week, so I can go in and kind of look at their Bitmojis. And I think this is really interesting and really, she's on an island somewhere there. We'll just move that down. But this is really interesting. If we look through some of their Bitmojis, some of the students would have like the rainbow, I'm doing great with my coffee. And other ones would have like, I'm struggling this morning. So I can use that kind of like a little SEL check-in with my students. There's also tons of resources. And I'm going to drop this in the chat here. Just give me a second to do so. Oh yes, Geneva, Slides Carnival, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. You'll see on the link that I shared, Matt Miller has tons of templates for Jamboard, and you can just click copy the Jamboard template, and it'll go right to your Jamboard, and you can edit that for whatever you need. So this is a nice one, an agree, disagree option. This is a go-to one for just some checking in, some writing prompts, exit tickets. Yes. There is a lot here that you guys can check out. One of my favorites, let's see, do they have it? The graffiti wall is really fun. The 4 corners is kind of nice if you give them 4 options. So for example, would you rather have option A, only Frosties for the rest of your life? Option 2, McDonald's McFlurries. Option 3, whatever Burger King makes. Or option 4, something else. And they have to choose to put their name in the 4 corners. The 2 truths and a lie. A guess who is great for those first few weeks of learning, where students can get to know each other. You can pull that information from their survey. All right, so that's Google Jamboard. It is a lot of fun. My suggestion is to double check your sharing settings before you share it out with your students. I know I've done that, like, why aren't you guys editing this? Dr. Sam, you forgot to put it on edit mode. Oh yeah, I'll do that. So double check that. Another tool that I absolutely adore, and if you do not have Canva for educators, it is free. I'm just gonna put educate. I love it so much I have to sing about it because it is fantastic. So I popped the link down there for the free educator account. You'll have to fill out some nitty gritties, but that's okay, you got this. And I'm just gonna do a quick little overview of Canva for Education. So what I love about their presentations within Canva, there we go, I gotta click on it, Sam. Okay, it's going well. And what I love about the presentations is that it gives you ideas with design in mind first. So you're not giving them like a wall of text to look at. You're actually giving them some, like you'll see here, you can just add these right in. So if I'm like, ooh, class syllabus, and now I can edit that for Dr. Sam's class. I can add a page, or if I like all the pages, which I got it, I'm just gonna click on apply all the pages. And then I'm gonna get all the pages. So, and then I can edit that for whatever I need for my students. So this is a fantastic resource, not just for the presentations, but they also have, Canva also has awesome stuff for infographics, for educational videos, for lesson planning templates. And I know Geneva's gonna get into lesson planning here, but they have lesson planning templates. They have digital agendas. There's, if you're using Google Classroom or Schoology, they have, you can style your LMS on, like customize the header and everything. Wiser and Canva also combines superpowers. Wiser is a digital worksheet creator where you can create your worksheet in Canva and use it in Wiser, where you can have different options for like drop down menu, multiple choice, drawing, sorting, matching, recording, and you can also differentiate within Wiser as well. So that is like the bonus tool for today. If you DM me over on Instagram, I'll send you a little Wiser tutorial. It is so much fun, and it really allows you to differentiate, because you can say, all right, give this set of questions to this group of students, give this set of questions to that group of students. And it also has accessibility built in, meaning it has recording options. So you can record your voice saying the answer or reading the question. And students can also record with their voice or record with video, which is a lot of fun. All right, that's Canva for EDU. Up next, we have Bitmoji Classroom, and I'm going to show you my Bitmoji office right here. It's coming up while I drop in a link for more information about the Bitmoji Classroom. Now, we know that this became very popular due to COVID, and everybody, you know, finding a resource for students. So what I love about the Bitmoji Classroom is it adds personality to an online space. Before you go crazy designing your Bitmoji Classroom, because it can be a lot of fun, I want to remind you guys to keep some things in mind. Keep it fun, functional, and informative. You don't want students like confused about where to go. Instead, have a space where they can come, they can connect with you, connect with each other. You'll see this little icon here, Immersive Reader, is built right into Buncee, which is the tool that I use to create the Bitmoji Classroom that I have here. Now, you can create it with Google slides and PowerPoint slides. Canva even has virtual backgrounds that you can create a Bitmoji Classroom with. But what I like about the Buncee is that it has the Immersive Reader built in, so it'll read the screen to my students. So to create, we're going to do a really quick little tutorial here with the Buncee. I'll just close out a couple of my Buncees here. There we go. Got a lot going on these tabs. So when you're thinking about designing your Bitmoji Classroom, there's a lot that you can do. So I'm just going to click on Start from Scratch But with Buncee EDU, you'll have access, since I already like used up my 30 days, you'll see they have lots of different, well, this is back to school because that's what's coming up, but this will change for like different holidays and thematic things. So they have like different summer vacation, first day of school, self-intro. You can actually grab these and use these on your own. And then if you scroll over here on the left, there's lots of resources separated by different grade levels and topics. But I'm just going to click start from scratch. And I'm going to click upload a background image. And you'll see here it's going to start like, oh, what kind of background image do you want? Oh, I kind of like these. I'm going to type in classroom. And we're going to search to see. So anything that you see in here, you can edit. So find one that looks like your classroom. Well, I kind of like this one with the world map, but that's not really a classroom. Let's see. We'll go with, oh, that one's cute. And I'll add it to this page. And then you can add in different items such as text and shapes and 3D items. You can add stickers and web things that you want to go into your course. So if you have like a spot where they go to check their grades, submit their work, extra resources, where do they go? Maybe they go to Splash Math or like some resource that you're using constantly. You can always have them click on the web and they can go check it out. You can also pop in your own picture and upload content as well. So very easy to use. Drag and drop, pop them in wherever you would like. So that's a little bit about Buncee. And then, you know, I put in the chat a link to the podcast episode that talks all about creating a Bitmoji classroom with Buncee, pros and cons, thinking about, you know, why you would want to create one, because you don't just want to create one just because, you know, we share about it, but really thinking about the why behind creating it. That goes the same for all ed tech. And then one more I have to share with you guys is Blukit. So it's a great alternative to Kahoot or Gimkit. What Blukit is, and I've used this with my students, it gives you different game sets that you can do live in class, student paced, teacher paced, or for homework that students have to complete. So I'm just going to click on, I'm going to host a game here. And let's see what's going on in the chat. Oh my gosh, I know, Geneva, they really are fun and addictive. So here we have different types of games that you can interact with, your students can interact with. A lot of my students, they would always go for, which one was it? Battle Royale was very popular. And Gold Quest, I don't know why, they were all about that. So if I click on Gold Quest, and we're gonna click host a game, you'll see, it'll give you a little description of the game there. It'll tell you how many people can play it at a time. And how many like people they suggest, like, yeah, this would be great with three more people. So if I click on host a game, I'm actually going to pop this into our chat. We're only going to do this for not 12 minutes. Let's see, let's do it for like 2. There we go. Allow late joining, use random names. So if you don't want students to put their own names in, you can select that as well. And we're going to click host now. Now, this is a review for a test. I know you guys did not study. That's okay. I'm going to pop the link in our chat. Just give me a second to do so. And then you're going to put the code. Let me put that in there too. In our chat as well. If you would like to join us, that'd be pretty cool. We can check this out together. There's the link or the code to join. I'm going to join on my phone. I'm not really playing on my phone because it's going to be hard to talk and do this at the same time. So blukit.com. Thank you, Erica, /play. And then the code. Join a game. 197256. Okay. Boom. All right, so we're gonna get started here. So as the teacher, you can take people out. So I'm like, nope, Jenna, you're out of here. I'm not really gonna do that, but you could. And we're gonna get started here. So you'll see, oh good, we got a couple more. All right, awesome, awesome. And you can join late if you would like. The ID is still in the top left-hand corner. So you can see the instructions. We're going to collect gold, and you can take gold from others. Most gold wins after 2 minutes. So here on the screen on the computer or on wherever you're looking, you can see what the teacher would see on your screen, depending on if you're on your phone or on a different tab, you'll see the questions. So you can answer the questions, and I just lost 25% of my gold, bummer. And you could choose different chests to open. Then you can click on your screen to keep moving on and keep answering questions. Ah, darn it, I'm not doing good at this game at all. I got the questions right, but yeah. Yay. And then you can, once the game starts going, you can start stealing gold from other people. This is just one of the game options that they have. Oh, I lost half my gold, darn it. I don't know which questions you're on, but if you're on the LRE ones, that was referenced from Boy Meets World, in case you're wondering. All right, we're doing pretty good here, friends. And then there should be options once we start going for you to steal gold and all sorts of things. So this is one type of game that you can play with Blukit. There are many others. Some of them are team-based, some of them are individual-based. And so it's a lot of fun, especially whenever you play in a hybrid or in a traditional setting. If you have all your cameras on in a virtual, you can see people like, what? You stole my gold? What happened? So yeah, so this is a little bit about Blukit. And so that's a Blukit. It's a lot of fun to create as a teacher. You can also create your own sets. You can also assign them as homework, set them up solo mode. And you can also, if you really like a question set, maybe you're using different questions for different sections, you can do that as well. You can check out any updates that they have. Like they just created this crypto hack game, and it tells you a little bit about it. And they have some different game modes. Ooh, that defense map looks good. That you guys can check out too. So Blukit, a lot of fun. You can play there. You can create. You can even check out their library of resources. So that is definitely a go-to to try out this. I very much recommend. That's all I have for you guys. What questions do we have before we kick it on over to Jenna? All right, how about before we end the time with me today, we share a little bit, what's one thing you're gonna try out this fall or something you're excited about for the fall? If you wanna drop it in the chat, that'd be cool. If you wanna hop on the mic. Yeah, Ginny, Nearpod's gonna be great. Definitely check out that library. Don't recreate the wheel, if you don't have to. Check out that library first, see what's there. Blukit is so much fun, Geneva. I think your students are gonna love it. It's gonna be their new favorite. And Jamboard for sure. Steven's all about the Blukit as well. That's awesome. Fantastic. All right, Jenna, it's up to you.
Hello, everyone.
That's great. You could share, Jenna, you want to share your screen or you want?
Yeah, I'll share my screen.
Yeah. Okay.
Sam has so much energy and I don't know if I can match it. I definitely can't stop it. So I'll just say that. Let me share my screen. Can you see?
Yeah.
All right. So I guess I'll start off by saying that at my school, I lead the SEL work. I went to Yale University with my administration during my first year of teaching. And I learned all about their SEL ruler program, which is honestly now, 5 years later, a huge DOE initiative. I know across a lot of different schools. So it's called Ruler. And I'm going to show you a few pictures from my classroom and how I use it. But I also just want to start off with a quick video about it, just to give you an intro. Geneva, is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. We'll skip through it. I don't think we're going to play it the whole time, but just to give you a little bit of a picture of what it is.
Well, we know from research, both.
So this is Mark Brackett. He's the one who works for Yale, and he created the ruler program.
Our own and the field is that when schools take social and emotional learning seriously, when they implement it with fidelity, with quality, with long-term sustainability, great things happen.
I was looking for a solution for social emotional learning. We have amazing students here in our school district who are very high performing. But what we're seeing is increased need to address emotional intelligence. What Ruler provided the school was an actual approach that all teachers could use.
In addition to being an approach, Ruler is a set of skills, and we call them the Ruler skills, representing R, recognizing emotions, U, understanding our feelings, the causes and the consequences, L, knowing precise words to label our feelings, E, knowing how and when to express our feelings, and finally the last R, which has to do with regulating emotions.
And Mrs. Goss was one of those teachers that took to the ruler approach immediately. When you walk into her classroom, she's really situating her lessons so that it goes with moods and feelings and words and strategies of how students can shift and regulate their emotions. And I felt that that was so powerful as a first grade teacher.
I start with an intention for my students. My students think about how they want to feel today. They are also empowered to know that they can feel the way they feel. So if they are feeling sad, that is okay.
I like to do breathing hot chocolate to calm me down. You're pretending you hold a cup of hot chocolate and breathe in to smell the cocoa so you can calm down and so you can feel better after your big emotions.
The mood meter is the signature tool of Ruler, and it's deceptively simple because it's just a box with 4 colors. But within each of those colors are hundreds, if not thousands, of emotion words. The yellow quadrant represents emotions that are high in energy and also very pleasant. Happy, excited, elated, ecstatic, optimistic. The green represents emotions that are pleasant, but they're kind of lower in energy. Calm, content, tranquil, peaceful, relaxed. The blue and the red are emotions that are unpleasant. And importantly, they're not bad, they're not negative, they're just unpleasant. The blue represents emotions that are down and disappointment and despair. And the red represents the anger and the anxiety family.
So in the past, when students would be sent to the principal's office or I walk around, I would ask them, how are you doing? And they'll say, I'm fine, I'm good. But now they're very precise in their vocabulary. They'll say, I'm at ease, I feel calm, I'm annoyed.
So that was a good intro into what the mood meter actually is. And I just want to pull one up just for reference. Just as that lady was saying in the video, that's what I've noticed with my students after I've incorporated it as like a daily routine. I've noticed that instead of students just saying, oh, I'm good or I'm tired, they have more words to use. They have different emotions that they could refer to. And it's really not just them expressing their emotions. It really opens up a relationship for us where they feel comfortable enough to share how they're feeling with me. And I do the same. I'll say, you know what? I'm in the blue right now too, right? And again, as Sam or Geneva was saying, I forget, it shows them that we're humanistic. We're not always in the yellow. We're not always happy. We're not always cheerful. We have emotions too. So I have created so many relationships with students just by asking them, where are you on the mood meter? So as you can see on the left side, on this axis, on the y-axis, it's all about energy. And on the x-axis, it's all about pleasantness. And obviously those words, axis, you don't have to use that with, the little kids. You can just say, honestly, in my school, I'm not even sure if the lower grades use this axis. They'll just use the 4 colors and use it just like that. But I know in 4th grade with my students, I would say, okay, well, if we're going up the energy axis, here's repulsed, right? So you have a good amount of energy with that. But when you're enraged, you have even more energy than that. So that's the difference between the colors. This is like a pinkish red and this is like a real red. So we even can differentiate it in terms of the level of energy and pleasantness. But there are so many different ways that you can incorporate the mood meter into every day. What I recommend is first, when the students come in the morning, just to give a little quick check-in, take the temperature of the room and see, how did everything go at night? How did everything go this morning? Did you have breakfast? Did somebody anger you at home? What's going on, right? So there are a few different ways that you can do that. Pre-COVID, what I had, and I wish I had a picture of it, but outside of my classroom, I had different colors, red, green, yellow, and blue construction paper with a handprint on it. And as the students were coming in, I would have them high five the color that they felt on the mood meter. And if I saw a student who high fived the blue or a yellow, I'm sorry, a blue or a green, I would say, oh, you know, stand to the side for a second. I just want to talk to you before you go in. And sometimes it would just be, you know what, I'm tired. And I'd say, all right, I just wanted to make sure you're okay. But you never know, you know, what the student is really thinking. So that's why I try to, you know, have them check in. And it's also hard, especially with the older kids, to have them be open and honest. So something could be bothering them, but they might just say green to basically, you know, walk right in. I don't want to talk to you about it. Just leave me alone, right? We know how some of the older students get. This really comes with a conversation in the beginning of the year of it's important to be honest. If you're not honest about how you're feeling, I can't do my job by trying to help you. That's why I'm here. So that's why I try to say, oh, you know, today I'm in the red, right? To show I'm being honest too. So that was one way that I used it. Another way that I used it was in my classroom. I don't know if you guys are familiar with, like, you know, they're just like jelly bracelets, different colored jelly bracelets. I had a big bucket of different colored jelly bracelets that matched each quadrant of the mood meter. And the students would just stand up and they would go put a bracelet on. And without even talking to me, I could see and I knew exactly what they were doing and what color they were in. And it was like a nonverbal kind of way of telling me, you know, I'm not okay right now. If they felt their mood switching from one quadrant to the next. So that was another phenomenal tool. Again, this was all pre-COVID. I'm going to get to COVID in a second. Another thing that I used to do is first week of school, I used to introduce the mood meter, give them a talk about what it is, how we're going to use it. And then I would give each table or each small group a color of the mood meter and have them create feeling words for that color. And then together we would jigsaw it and talk about the different feeling words and have them also, you can have them create pictures to show different faces and things like that. Again, this is like a language of a school. So if you're going into a school right now or going to be going into a school that has never heard of a mood meter, I think that you should try to introduce it, right? Be a leader, stand up and say, you know what, I know about this mood meter. I know SEL is super important right now. I want to teach you about this mood meter. I want to know if it's okay if I could use it. And I want to tell you all the benefits that I've heard about it. But I know that most schools are really trying to start to incorporate it now. But anyway, it's usually the language of the school. So for example, in my school, I know the art teacher has different artists who create paintings of different moods, and she'll have the students put those different pictures into different quadrants on the mood meter based on the mood or the feeling of that image or that painting. So it's a whole school language. In terms of COVID, what I used to do is I used to have a Google form that basically just gave them the mood meter and gave them a sentence starter. Today I am feeling blank because blank. And that sentence starter helped them kind of, you know, expand on their feelings. Another thing I used to do is when we were in school, I gave each student a Ziploc bag of the 4 different color popsicle sticks to represent each quadrant, and they would hold up the popsicle stick if they felt that they were angry or whichever quadrant they were in, just to give me a nonverbal cue as well. So when would you do this? I would say morning as soon as they come in. And then I think another great time to do it, which is when I used to do it, is right after lunch, because we all know during lunch things go down. We don't know what's going on at recess. They come back and everybody's all flipping out. So I used to do that right after lunch and right after they came in. So that's the mood meter from Ruler. Another great Ruler tool that I wanted to show you was the meta moment. So this is what the meta moment looks like. And really what it's all about is, of course it says page number down. What it's all about is seeing the best version of yourself. So I have this poster hanging in my room, And when a student is kind of enraged in a either a problem or they're just so wound up that they can't think straight, I have them walk over to the meta moment and I say, okay, stop for a second. Let's talk about the trigger that just happened. Let's make some sense of it. And then see your best self. What does your best self look like? What does your best self sound like? Just stop for a second and take a step back. So throughout the entire day, I'll reference the meta moment. Sometimes I'll say, if I'm angry, I'll say, okay, I need to stop. I need a meta moment, right? And this is language that the teachers use in my school. We all use that phrase, let's take a meta moment, because it's part of the culture. So the meta moment is another great thing. And let me go back to the slides. While I'm on Ruler, I'm just going to go here for 1 second. This is in the back of a classroom. This was in one of my old classrooms. Geneva, I think it was you who was talking about the rules in the classroom in the beginning of this session. So what Ruler recommends is that we use a charter. It's called a charter. And it really is like a set of rules, but it's more about feelings. So it always has 3 main components. So how do we want to feel in this class? And as a class together, we come up with how do we want to feel? We want to feel excited. We want to feel joyful, respect. This is what we came up with that year, right? The next part of it is in order to feel this way, what will we do? We'll talk to each other. We'll be at, we'll help each other. We'll forgive each other. They'll come up with that part. And the final part is if we don't feel the way we want to feel, what are we going to do? What's our plan to say, okay, how are we going to shift into where we want to feel if we're not feeling the way that we want to, right? So maybe communicate better, go take a walk, go to the calming corner, things like that. Okay, so that's the charter, and that's kind of how we've rephrased our classroom rules in our school, in our district, using the charter. Okay, the left of that we have how are you feeling today? So again, you have your mood meter with your energy and your pleasantness axis, and the students printed out pictures and wrote on the index cards different feeling words. This is not Ruler related, but I also had a Toodle board in my classroom, and it's basically the opposite of tattling is tootling, is what I used to say. So we give praises, and when students were done with their work or in the morning while they were eating breakfast, whenever they had a free moment, I would encourage them to go onto the Toodle board and leave a post-it for somebody else in the class, just giving them a positive praise. You did a great job in math today. Thank you so much for being a good friend. I love the way you read today during reading. Whatever it is, just to give a positive praise to somebody goes a long way. So this was my little SEL calming corner. I know some teachers now call it a Zen zone. So that's that. Does anybody have any questions so far? I'm going really fast, sorry. Any questions? No? Okay. And finally, this was my little calming corner right below the picture that I just showed you. So what I would do is if students need to go to the calming corner, first of all, they didn't ask me. They knew that they can go if there was not another student in there. And I had this dry erase laminated mood meter. There were 2 mood meters side by side. So the first one was a check-in. When you get to the calming corner, they would use a dry erase marker, which was on top, and they would check in on the mood meter. Where am I right now? And on the bottom, it had a little sentence starter. Right now, I'm feeling blank because blank. Quick little phrases. I'm feeling angry because Geneva took my pencil. I sat there for 5 minutes. I had a timer right over here in the corner. I would put the time, students would put the timer on, they knew 5 minutes. And there were a few things that they could do. So here's a brain break bucket. In there, I had CD players, I had coloring books, I had little fidget toys, Rubik's Cubes, Play-Doh, all of that stuff. They sat there for 5 minutes. When the timer was up, then they went back and they did a checkout. How am I feeling now? I would then go over and check and see, was there an improvement or are they still feeling the same way? Now, a few other things in here that I want to point out to you. There was a little meta moment poster where they could see their best selves, and I had attached a little mirror to that, where I know it sounds crazy, but I would have them stare at themselves and look in the mirror and say, what does my best self look like? And I would point out their facial expressions. Look at your face right now. I noticed that your cheeks are very red. I think that you're angry. Or look at how your eyes look. It looks like you're angry. I would have them point out different parts of their face and say, what are you noticing about that? Is that what your best self looks like? And they would comment and say, I think this and I think that. So it sounds silly, but goes a long way. Then I had a page, My Best Self. I forget where I got it from, but I have it on my drive if anybody wants it. And it really was just oh, there's a picture right there. So the students drew a picture of what their best selves look like, and what do they sound like, what do they act like, and just a little quick reflection tool. And then this was something else, a blueprint for controlling my emotions. Let me show you guys that really quick. That's another ruler tool. Which basically focuses on the I message. So instead of saying, Geneva took my pencil, Geneva made me mad, right? It really focuses on me. How did I feel? What caused my feelings? How did I express and regulate my feelings? Instead of always pointing the finger, take a step back and think about yourself in the situation and how did you play a role in the situation before just assuming that it was the other person's fault. So that was a quick little reflection that I used to do with them where they can complete themselves on the clipboard. So that is basically ruler in a nutshell. Ruler 101. Does anybody have any questions about ruler before I move on? Nothing in the chat? I don't even know where my chat is. No? Okay. All right.
No, anything.
Let me minimize this.
So is ruler connected to like a curriculum, or is just used for like the emotional check-ins and stuff like that? Is it actually tied into a curriculum?
Thank you, Geneva. So it doesn't come with an actual curriculum. It really is just those specific tools that Ruler provides. However, we don't want SEL to be in isolation. We don't want to say, okay, this is SEL time. Okay, now it's math time. Like we want it to be fluid and all interconnected. So for example, in math, when students are doing challenging problems or are having trouble and stressed, if I'm giving them a juicy problem to do, I'll stop them and I'll have them just hold up their mood meter sticks. Can everybody just show me where they're on the mood meter right now? I just want to take a temperature of the room. And if I see one specific student or a group is all in the red, I know that they're stressed out about this problem and they must be having a problem with finding the solution. So I'm going to go over to them purposely because I know that they're frustrated right now. So I love doing that in math as well. Also in literacy, I'll have them, if we're reading a short text or if we're watching a video, if we're discussing characters, I'll have the students relate it back to the mood meter. Where is this character on the mood meter right now? If we're reading a story, it has this character changed from one quadrant to another on the mood meter from the beginning to the end of the story. Those kinds of questions, you can find those connections. In my school, we have basically an SEL team. And right now what we're doing is we're looking through all of the curriculum maps and trying to find natural fits for where SEL can go within lessons. So in literacy, it's pretty easy because we can relate it to characters all the time. In math, it's a little bit more challenging, but I like to use it for that growth mindset piece of math where students can get frustrated if they can't find out the answer to a problem or things like that. So yeah, we definitely don't want SEL to be in isolation. That's on my slide. This poem, Cause I Ain't Got a Pencil, if you just want to take a minute to read it to yourselves, it's has nothing to do with ruler, but it kind of relates to what I'm talking about, that we don't know where students are coming from when they come through those doors. We don't know what has happened to them and what they've seen and whatever they've been through. So something as little as a pencil, right? We expect them to come. Some teachers get so angry when they don't come to school with a pencil, but we don't know. We don't know what that student's going through. So instead of, being angry or making assumptions about students, we really need to take a step back and think about the fact that we haven't walked their shoes. And, it kind of connects to this idea of why SEL is so important. Right. Did everyone get a chance to read it? Yeah, okay. Let's move on. Sorry, Geneva, all these pictures are all messed up. Sorry. So the last thing I want to introduce you to before I do, Geneva, do you think we have time for the champion video?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. So the last thing I want to introduce you to is Ruler is an SEL program, I want to say. It's not really curriculum. Stanford Harmony is another curriculum / program. I would say this is more of a curriculum than Ruler that we use, and I know Geneva uses as well. You can make a free account on Stanford Harmony, and it really breaks down by grade different units that students can there's activities linked to the main SEL components. So unit 1, sorry, I'll explore a minute. Okay. Unit 1, diversity and inclusion. There are several activities related to diversity and inclusion for the first unit. The second one, empathy and critical thinking, communication, problem solving, peer relationships. So what I did last year is I created a Padlet of resources for every unit. And within each unit, there are specific activities and tasks and read alouds and games that the students can play. And I would upload everything that we were doing onto a Padlet under that unit, and we would go through it. So like for this one, the first one, there's like a matching game, like, oh, I have a pet and Geneva has a pet. So, and we would like circle the circle that we both have pets, just kind of like an introduction game, things we have in common, learn something new. We came up with a class motto. It's all about just making the students feel comfortable. And what I like about Sanford Harmony is that it offers so many activities, games, read alouds. There's something called quick connection cards, which are literally just little cards that students can talk about. They have like discussion starters on them or quotes. So they offer a lot. Sanford Harmony, I really suggest looking into them and make a free account, because why not? So finally, I'm going to play Every Kid Needs a Champion. And I'm not sure if everybody's heard of this before, but Geneva and I were introduced to it in our leadership program. And I can speak for both of us. I think that it's left a huge impact on us and the way that we think about students, the way that we see SEL, and just the way that we approach teaching and leadership in general. So I hope you guys like it. If it loads. Come on. Geneva, maybe you could pull it up. Oh, I got it.
Learn Spanish with Real Spanish TV.
I have spent my entire life either at the schoolhouse, on the way to the schoolhouse, or talking about what happens in the schoolhouse. Both my parents were educators. My maternal grandparents were educators. And for the past 40 years, I've done the same thing. And so needless to say, over those years, I've had a chance to look at education reform from a lot of perspectives. Some of those reforms have been good, some of them have been not so good. And we know why kids drop out. James Comer says that no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. George Washington Carver says all learning is understanding relationships. Everyone in this room has been affected by a teacher or an adult. For years, I have watched people teach. I have looked at the best and I've looked at some of the worst. A colleague said to me one time, they don't pay me to like the kids. They pay me to teach a lesson. The kids should learn it. I should teach it. They should learn it. Case closed. Well, I said to her, you know, kids don't learn from people they don't like. She said, that's just a bunch of hooey. And I said to her, well, your year is going to be long and arduous, dear. Needless to say, it was. Some people think that you can either have it in you to build a relationship or you don't. I think Stephen Covey had the right idea. He said you ought to just throw in a few simple things, like seeking first to understand as opposed to being understood. Simple things like apologizing. You ever thought about that? Tell a kid you're sorry, they're in shock. I taught a lesson once on ratios. I'm not real good with math, but I was working on it. And I got back and looked at that teacher edition. I taught the whole lesson wrong. So I came back to class the next day and I said, look, guys, I need to apologize. I taught the whole lesson wrong. I'm so sorry. They said, that's okay, Miss Pearson. You were so excited. We just let you go. And so I gave a quiz, 20 questions. Student missed 18. I put a +2 on his paper and a big smiley face. He said, Miss Pearson, is this an F? I said, yes. He said, then why'd you put a smiley face? I said, because you on the roll. You got 2 right, you didn't miss them all. I said, and when we review this, won't you do better? He said, yes, ma'am, I can do better. You see, -18 sucks all the life out of you. +2 said, I ain't all bad. Can we stand to have more relationships? Absolutely. Will you like all your children? Of course not. And you know your toughest kids are never absent. Never. You won't like them all, and the tough ones show up for a reason. It's the connection, it's the relationships. And while you won't like them all, the key is they can never, ever know. So teachers become great actors and great actresses, and we come to work when we don't feel like it, and we listen to policy that doesn't make sense, and we teach anyway. We teach anyway because that's what we do. Teaching and learning should bring joy. How powerful would our world be if we had kids who were not afraid to take risks, who were not afraid to think, and who...
So without even having to say anything, you guys could just know that that was our favorite TED Talk. But it really says, let me stop sharing. It really says a lot about that power, just like she says, Rita, about the power of relationships and the power of that connection, and how every child really deserves to have a champion, because every single child has so many strengths. And if we focus on their weaknesses, what good is that going to do them? So that's just something a little to leave with you, related to SEL and really the whole classroom in general. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jenna. Oh, I love that video. Like, it really hits home all the time, because it goes back to the relationships with the students, right? Like, those relationships are so important, and really knowing the students, where they're coming from, or not even being aware that you don't know where they're coming from. So you have to be a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more empathetic, right? Yeah. And the poem with the pencil, that when I first read it, I cried. Like, I literally cried. And every time I see it, it's just like, it's so true. You don't know what's going on at home. And, there are teachers that focus on, you don't have a notebook, you don't have a pencil, just give it to them, because you don't know if they can have that, right? Or having snacks for students, right? It's just, those relationships are important. And also focusing on the positive, right? I love how she said +2 instead of, -18 or whatever. Like, that really does affect a student and even their potential to grow, because they're beating themselves up. I'm not smart enough. I don't know this. I'm not good. And they're putting in their head all that negativity, and it's going to affect them to be open to learning or even trying. So it's our job as educators to help them in that way, right? Help them build that confidence. Let them know that we're there for them. That was great. Thank you, Jenna. Okay, so like we said, engaging students, what Dr. Sam focused on. It's important to engage students, and I know she covered a lot of awesome platforms that we can use online. We also have to be mindful of things we could do in the classroom. Even though we're going back into the building full time, we still need to use technology. Technology is not going anywhere, right? And we know once the pandemic hit, a lot of us were not knowledgeable on using the internet, using applications, the computer. So do not do away with it just because you're face-to-face. Utilize it, because we also noticed that a lot of students were learning better. They were like retaining more information, learning better using, these online platforms. And we didn't know this because we were in the classroom with the, the traditional worksheets, right? We got to be creative with how we reach our students, and we want to keep current. That's important, keeping current. And technology is it. So if you're not familiar with it, again, accept that you're a lifelong learner and try to take They have workshops online, trainings, you can find free stuff. Again, like Dr. Sam said, embrace free. Like there's so much free out there. And we know as educators, you know, we're gonna need a lot of resources. So if there's some things worth investing in, I agree. But there's a lot of things you can find online or even trainings. YouTube has tons of tutorials that are free. You could just watch, right? Or listening to podcasts, right? You can learn so much and get so much knowledge just from doing your research, doing your homework. So I'm going to share some template, a lesson plan template. I know some people are asking about lesson plan. I've shared this with Mr. Julian. This is the one I've been using since I became a teacher. I was using one when I was a fellow. It was like 9 pages long. It was ridiculous, but they do prepare you because they want you to, we were taught to write, what is the teacher gonna say? What is the student gonna say? The teacher gonna say, right? So like you become familiar with using, you get more comfortable with having ideas of how the student is going to respond to what you say. So I think that's why they had us do that. But my lesson plans now are no more than 2 pages, maybe a page and a half. And I'll show you it. It just has the important components, the areas that you need to have part in your lesson plan. Remember, your lesson plan can be on a napkin. It's for you. It's you and how you're gonna, lead your lesson. So a lesson plan doesn't have to be a specific format, but you want to make sure you have the essential parts of a lesson plan. So let me share my screen. Is this it? No, can't share. All right. You guys see my lesson plan on the screen? All right, so here is it's a basic lesson plan. I'm sharing this with you guys in the resources. I didn't really erase anything. This is anything from it because I want you to see exactly what we put in each area. So this lesson plan is a page and a half. Yeah, so it's nothing crazy. And it has just the major areas you want to have, the class, the subject, the date, whatever, the lesson objectives. What is the lesson? It's important to know what do you want the students to get out of the lesson, right? So you want to know what the objective is. And then, a lot of people say start backwards. You should know what do you want the students to get out of that lesson? And you're going to start with that. That way, that's going to help you guide, and that's going to help you prepare your lesson plan, because you're going to know, all right, I want my students to know 2 key details of the story, or I want them to, share character traits for 2 of the characters, or compare and whatever your thing is. You want to have that as your lesson objective. That way, you know what you're working on and what you're trying to get your students to pull out of the lesson or retain. Let me share it. So in my lesson plan, I objective in the front top. Then I have my common core. Standards, which is what is it aligned to? Your objective, you shouldn't have too many objectives. Based on your students and level you work for, I do about 2 to 3 objectives for that lesson. Your assessments, like how are your assessment goals? Like what are you assessing, right? Remember, we should always be assessing something in our lessons. So here I was addressing SEL and ELA. So I had some basic skills that they were working on. Also here, all science, using the 5 senses. SEL was describing emotions. So you want to have that. Then here I have what are the strategies I'm going to use to help the students learn the skill I'm trying to teach them, right? So transition cues, guided scripts, prompts, this is going to look different based on your students. Then the opening is basically how you're going to engage the students in the lesson, right? Some people do nows. You want to check for prior knowledge. If it's a new skill that you're teaching them, right? I always start with my emotional check-in. So I've been going over how they're feeling, why they feel this way. They share a little bit about their breakfast, lunch, anything. I do, the emotional check-in is an important time to also check on the students, see how they're doing, how they're feeling. And like I said in the chat earlier, it kind of helps navigate, it helps you the day, you navigate the day, right? Because if you have a student that's coming in a bad mood, or that he's, he gets easily up, he's going to be easily upset, or he's tired, right? He says, I'm tired and sleep. Then you're going to know why the kid has his head down, right? You're going to probably try to want to give him a pass. If he says he's hungry, then you might want to give him an extra snack or something like that, right? Or if they had a fight with somebody at home, their siblings. These emotional check-ins are very helpful because it can help you decide where the day is going to go, right? And also you may be a little bit more easy on the students that's had it rough. We're all human, right? We all have our days, we have our ups and downs, but it kind of helps. you know which way to go, or if you need to call parents or anything like that, you know what the day is going to kind of look like. So that's always part of my opening. But you want to engage your students in whatever lesson you're doing. You want to engage them in that opening portion. Also, what I used to do is I used to put times here, because remember, timing your lesson is really important. So I would say, for example, this is going to be 10 minutes, right? Because you remember, you want to use a timer also. When I first became a teacher, I struggled with time management in my lessons. When I would get observed, I was still in my opening of my lesson that I never actually got to, like the group activities and all that stuff, because I got I lost track of time. So a time is very important because it helps not only the students, it helps you keep track of what you're doing, and you want to make sure you cover all the material you want to cover. Right, so here would be introducing whichever material you're going to use to introduce the lesson, right? You're going to use video, you're going to use a picture, you're going to use relating it to experience that you've had. You're going to use the checking for prior knowledge, the do now, whatever you do as you're checking. I usually do a do now just to kind of like open up the lesson. And also it gets me, if it's a new skill, it gives me an idea of what the students know. Before we go into the new material. So whatever you're using, right? Anchor charts, videos, pictures, you're gonna have an open discussion. You wanna use multiple ways to introduce the topic, because again, no two students learn the same. So you wanna give all of them an opportunity to learn the skills you're trying to teach them. And again, like some are, learn through pictures, some learn through audio, some learn through acting out or discussion, it depends. That's why you wanna have multiple ways. Then the guided practice, after you do that, again, you want to time this. You want to make sure you post all the stuff you're going to be using. I would say introducing it would probably take a little longer, so 15 minutes, right? And then you're going to have the guided practice. After you teach the skill, you want to see, you're going to do a group activity with the students. You're going to have them in groups, maybe with paraprofessionals or in a big group activity. Some people do it on the rug. You want to do a guided activity to see if they actually, understood what you were, you were doing and you were introducing to them. So this will be a group activity. You want to time this also, and then you want to have individual work. Right now, you want to see the students are able to do the activity by themselves. So here you would have levels, again, differentiation, depending on your class. But again, even if you're general ed, students need differentiation, students need scaffolding, right? No, it's very hard to believe that you can use one worksheet or one activity for all your students in your class, right? Students need some type of differentiation. So here you would put your levels of what the procedure is going to be, what you're using, right? This is all pictures, additional time, the communication device. They will respond with 1 or 2 words or maybe pointing, right? Or thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever your students are working on. Here, modeling, prompting to fill in the blanks. So here they're a little higher, they're filling in blanks, maybe using a word bank or matching pictures. So again, it's gonna look different depending on your students, and you should have some type of differentiation. My essential questions, I try to keep it between 3 and, be 3, 4, sometimes it's a little bit more. But the basic questions are just, you want to see if the students got what you were teaching them, right? This is going to help you, edit the lesson for the next day, edit the activities for the next day. Did they learn what they were supposed to learn? What did they learn about? You want this at the end of the day, this can be kind of like an assessment for you to know how you're going to, go move on. Sometimes you have exit slips, right? So the exit slip can that's another way, like I said, you can use some of the essential questions in the exit slip, 3 questions, 4 questions, just to see if there's a way you can, adapt those worksheets or whatever. Here, the independent practices where the student will be doing it by themselves. Here, I just add my material I'm going to use, making sure that I have all my stuff. Remember, being prepared. This is part of your confidence. Being prepared for your lesson, you want to have everything here. So you want to make sure you have all your material and you're ready for the lesson. You don't want to be looking for stuff in the middle of your lesson that doesn't show that you're prepared, and that can affect you, especially during your observation. Again, self-reflection can help you close. It could be part of your essential questions. They will complete a reflection, recap, what did they learn today? Again, depending on the students' levels. And then you'll add if you're going to give them homework or something like that. Anybody have a question about this before I move on? No? All right. So another thing here was, this is what I was showing you. I was talking about the meet the teacher, right? So in order to build those relationships with families, you want to make sure you do a a meet the teacher in the beginning of the year. You want to give them a little snapshot of what the school year is going to look like, what you're going to be covering, if you can. This was just for summer, so it was very short. We knew we were focusing on SEL. So I gave them a little bit about me. Again, you want to be, let them know you're human. You're just like them. So it helps make those relationships. And give a little snapshot of how you're going to be working with the students in the summer. If there's any specific activities you're going to be doing, any fun projects, you can put that in the Meet the Teacher. You should do this the first few days of school. And also you can send home any surveys. You want to make sure parents have a contact information for you, whether you want to give them your school email, or if you want to make an email just for your class, that's fine. A phone number, you want to give them the school phone number, or if you want to have a Google phone number, you can give them that. It depends. Like, we all have different relationships with our families. We all, we communicate differently. So we just, whatever works for your parents. Remember, it's about your parents and their families. I know some of our students, their families are not from here. A lot of them use WhatsApp. So I would, I keep in communication with parents like that through email. If we use Clash Dojo, a lot of these platforms have their own messaging systems. Use what works for your parents, but you want to give them multiple ways to communicate with you and have that is two-way. You can contact them and they can contact you, because that's how you can build that relationship. And again, families are a major part of the student success. They need to know that you guys are a partnership. You guys are on the same team, right? All right, any questions? I want to show you guys the data sheets I have, because I know somebody asked about data collection. I'm gonna add all this to our Google Sites. So here I gave you the sample lesson plan that I just showed you. You can use it if you want. I'm gonna share this with you, or just get an idea of how you wanna make your own templates. Some schools, they recommend you use their templates, but again, you can use whatever template works for you. Where's the data sheets? So here I have some data sheets. Some people, I'm going to share this folder with you, also has a bunch of different samples of different data sheets, how to collect data, behaviors. You can make your own based on it, or you can use what's already here. So I have essential question data sheets. Let me see, which one is this one here? Online, again, they have tons of them, but again, you want to make it, you want to individualize it or make it for your students, right? Here's one that we received from our administration, is a data collection sheet. It could be simple, it could be as complex. This one is a little it has all this extra stuff here. But this is a sample. You want to put the tasks that the student's working on, and then this is where you're going to record the data, and in the bottom it shows you a breakdown of exactly, right? So here's the different types of prompts. We have physical prompts, we have shadowing, we have gestures, visual, concrete objects. So here you'll have a little breakdown of how to use it. This one's a little bit more complex. Let me show you another one. Again, you go online collecting data. You're just focusing on what the student's doing. How did they get? Let me see, what's this? How did they get to their answer, right? Did they need you to give them a picture? Did they need repetition, right? Here's a basic one that I used over the summer. Student's name, the date, and these were for example, a basic, these were the skills I was gonna work on in one live session with them. So we do the weather check, which is a lot of using the characteristics they see of the weather, what they know about the weather, what they see about the weather, can they read the weather on the screen, right? So here I would be a little bit more specific of what skill they're focusing on, what about the weather they're going to be focusing on. Then the emotional check-in here is more of, the goal is for them to express how they feel and then tell us why they feel the way they feel. Also, we'll throw in, like I said in the chat, the senses, right? Sometimes they say, I'm happy, but they don't look happy. Their body is not showing you the happy. So then we try to tell them, okay, well, you're saying you're happy. Usually that's the only vocabulary they know. They're happy or sad, or they're okay. Like Jenna said, we want to give that we want to give them the vocabulary. So the goal is, all right, if you're happy, why are you happy? Sometimes they can't tell us. So maybe it's because that's not what they're really feeling, but they're so used to saying happy that that's all they say. So we want to let them know, all right, you're saying you're happy, but you're crying, right? You're saying you're happy, but you look sad. You're saying you're happy, but you're slouched over, you know, like letting them know, okay, if you're happy, where do you feel it in your body? Or if you're angry, okay, where do you feel it? Like, you know, you might get hot, your heart rate might be going faster. So the goal is for them to be able to explain in their emotional check and how they're feeling and why. Here is, did they master it? Did they answer completely how they feel and why they feel that way? Then they'll get it in here. Most of our students need some type of prompt or support, a gesture prompt, right? If we're showing them pictures, they're pointing to the pictures, we're sharing the screen, they're picking what they feel, or we're giving them multiple choice and they're picking their answer from the multiple choice, right? And then you're gonna write a comment of how did they get to that, how did they get to their answer? I showed them 2 pictures, they picked one, or they gave me a thumbs up when I showed them a picture, that they gave me a thumbs down when I showed them the picture. Maybe they have a family that modeled what they had to say and they repeated after them. This is where you're gonna get specific with how they got their answer. And this is going to help you moving forward tomorrow. Okay, well, yesterday they were able to point to the sun. Now I want them to try to say sun, or maybe give me a visual or point to the picture of a sun if you're giving them 3 options, right? So the goal is to use this data to kind of like push them a little bit more, make it a little bit more challenging and rigorous the next day and next day, right? So that they're eventually answering with no support, no visual support, no modeling, no prompting, right? So this one's a very basic, simple one. It can get really complex or it can get really low, but if you're doing some type of data collection, you're doing your job, right? Like, and it all looks different, again, for different grades, different. This is ABC. Which one is this? A remote ABC. I think this is what we were using. Well, this is more for like behaviors, right? So if you have behaviors in your class, this is where you're going to collect the data on the behaviors. You're going to write the student's name, this description of the behavior, right? Because the goal is to replace that behavior with appropriate behavior. I know I'm going a little bit over time, but if you want to stay, you can. If not, then it's fine. I'm going to continue. The data, collecting you want to know what behavior you're focusing on, and you want to replace that behavior with appropriate behavior, right? Remember, don't overdo yourself. If you're focusing on one behavior, you want to stick to that one behavior on one form. You don't want to have too much here because it's going to get messy and the data is not going to be accurate. So if the student likes to kick, right? Let's say, for example, the student kicks or the student throws objects, whatever. You're going to put the behavior right here. Then you're going to collect data, the date and the time, and exactly how, like what happened, what were the things that happened before, what were the triggers, right? Because the goal is to prevent those things from happening. You see a behavior is about to start, you need to be able to identify, and that's how the data is going to help you. Okay, oh, when Tom passes by John, John gets triggered and then he wants to hit Tom, or he wants to kick Tom, right? So maybe we know it's only a specific student. Maybe he just doesn't like that student, or maybe it's a specific lesson. Every day at ELA, John kicks or John throws, right? So the point is to be as specific as possible. That way you can figure out what the issue is, why it's happening, and to prevent it from happening, okay? So the behaviors here, how did you deal with the issue? And the goal is there's going to be, okay, they're kicking. The goal is there's going to be a consequence for that. But is that consequence helping, right? What consequence are we putting in place to prevent it from happening again? Is it an effective consequence, right? If the student only gets a 10-minute timeout and you're noticing that every day it's happening over and over again, that means that that's not an effective consequence, right? Or if the student takes a walk and they come back, then it kind of helps with the problem, right? You want to figure out how to replace that behavior and also prevent it from happening again. So this would be an ABC data sheet. Again, you can edit this. I'm going to share the folder with you. There's a lot of different types of data sheets here. The essential question data sheets. I guess I put an TPA one in there. I gotta look at that one. Let's see what else we could find in here. Oh, I think I did that one already. Oh, so this one here. All right, so this one here, I used to use, I was doing ABA, applied behavior analysis, right? We use that a lot with students, with children with autism. So here was some of the stuff they're working. Here's a little bit of difference percentage. You do a tally or you do a check a minus, or prompt, fully prompt, right? So there's, again, like, there's many different ways. If you're focusing on sequencing, right, you do a sequencing task with the students, you're gonna put it here. If it was correct, it's a plus. If they didn't do it correctly, you're gonna put a negative, and then if they got a prompt, you put a P, and then you'll tally it up and the percent. So you'll probably do like 10 trials or something like that. You will add that here. All right, so there's a lot of different ones. I'm gonna share this folder with you guys. And again, if you need anything else, let me know. Here on this resource page. There's a bunch of resources that you'll be able to use based on what we were talking about. So this week you should be focusing on thinking about morning routines for your class, what will work best, but remember that it's going to change. But you have some ideas to bring to the classroom, like some routines you want, right? You want to do a morning check-in, you want to do an emotional check-in where you can throw in your SEL there, you want to throw in weather, you want to do the calendar, right? That's very ideal for the younger kids. The older kids, you might want to do just like a regular check-in, seeing how they're feeling, how they're doing, anything they want to share with you, right? Think of incentives and point systems. There's a lot of different things. So like I said, I used to do the Kahoot. The Kahoot was an assessment, but it also was fun for them because it was a game. All right, think of fun, all about me activities, relationship building activities, things you can send home to your families, things you could do with the students in the classroom, and make it work for you, and also make sure that it's information that you're going to be able to use to, for the rest of the school year. You want to make it meaningful. And then you want to start putting together a Meet the Teacher newsletter, right? So for example, the first the couple of days you want to share with your family something about you, but also try to find a monthly or maybe a weekly thing you might want to do with your class, whether it's a newsletter. I know for our school, we do a monthly newsletter to our family, just keeping them up to date with what's going on in the school, with days closing, any events that's going on. And we also share on there what's going on in the classroom. That also helps them, help and be involved with the students' academics and social, emotional learning, if they know what's going on in the classroom. That way they can really be a partner with what's going on in the class and in the school. All right, so try to think about how you want to communicate with the families, how you want to build those relationships with them, and think of some routines for the classroom. All right, guys, anybody have any questions before we wrap it up? I know it was a little longer today, but we had a lot of information. If not, no problem, Alexis. Again, I'm putting together Google Sites with all this information. If you have any questions, I know some people have been reaching out asking me for resources or any tips and advice on other things. I'm here to help you. So just email me if you have any questions. I'm going to do a survey at the end so that I can have a better idea of how to move forward with the bootcamp. I'm planning to do it like a semester thing, but I will use your insight and your survey information to kind of like drive that. So that's going to be very helpful for me and for other people that attend. So thank you so much. And I will send you guys some stuff at the end, maybe later today. And I see you guys next Sunday for our last week on It Takes a Village. It's going to be all about collaborating with families, teachers, and an ICT classroom. You're going to see how an effective ICT classroom looks. All right. Thank you. Bye. Bye, guys.